I'll state my case.
Coming up in the news, the strike continues for junior doctors in Grand Bahama and New Providence, and the Minister of Health calling it an emergency situation. Pioneers of television here on Grand Bahama remembering a giant of a man. And fun activities and lots of prizes set for one give back this coming Saturday. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shashina Wolf-Parkinson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news this evening, an area of disturbance creating unsettled weather across Grand Bahama today. Heavy downpours and flooding in low-lying areas presented a challenge for many motorists. Meanwhile, a severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect for central and eastern Grand Bahama and their adjacent waters until 7 p.m. Joining me live tonight to tell us more about this activity in the tropics is meteorologist Trinard Tynes. Trinard, tell us more about what's happening.
Good evening, Bahamas, and good evening, Shishino. Basically, what we're looking at is we have been monitoring a tropical depression that is roughly about 50 some odd miles just to the southeast of Bimini at this present time, slowly working its way towards the north into the southern portions of Florida. So basically what we're looking at is this system is going to make a slow trek in that direction, which should produce some convective activity, sometimes strong for our area for the next few days.
And Trinard, we saw today where there were heavy downpours and flooding in low-lying areas. Is this expected to continue throughout the weekend?
Yes, ma'am. We are going to go, right now we are, and at this present time, we are outside of any convective activity at this present time, which is just a brief release of shower activity for us. But we are anticipating as we go into Saturday and Sunday, this system as it moves just to the west of us over Palm Beach tonight, and then further working its way up on Saturday morning in the area of Melbourne. We are going to continue to see shower activities in spots. Basically what's going to happen, we're going to have areas where we're going to have long periods of showers, and then we're going to have a break, and then we're going to see showers again, basically almost in bands over the forecast period.
We should be worried about?
Basically, just a lot of convective activity. We are also putting out a special warning out for our motorists. As you move about, and anytime we do have these heavy shower activity, we're going to have flooding in certain areas. In Grand Bahama especially, most of the public is well aware of areas that are prone to these flooded areas. So once you know the areas where it's going to be flooding, just take your time and move as you move about the motorways. Just be very cautious when you're coming up to these spots, because when we do have these long extended periods of shower activity, be well aware that we are going to get flooding in those areas. Most persons already are saying that we are looking for a hurricane to form with the system. Bear in mind, this system is a depression, and that is at the lower level of any of our hurricane scale. So it's going to take some time for it to reach a hurricane if it does make it, but we are forecasting, and the Hurricane Center is watching this system closely. If it does form into anything, it will be a depression, and it should form to the north of the northwest Bahamas. So it will produce a lot of shower activity, probably get some gusty winds associated with any thunderstorm activity, but we're only looking for a depression to be close to us, to the north of us, just east of Cape Canaveral. That's probably on Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Well, thank you so much for joining us live tonight, Trinard. And of course, for more on the latest weather forecast, you can tune into a 10 a.m. and 104.5 FM throughout the weekend. Well, switching gears now, it's day 3 of the doctors' strike here in Grand Bahama and New Providence. The junior doctors began industrial action on Wednesday, which the Minister of Health, Dr. Dwayne Sands, is calling an emergency situation. According to reports, over 400 doctors withdrew their services across the country, forcing the Public Hospitals Authority to reduce its services to emergencies only at the Princess Margaret Hospital, Sandlands Rehabilitation Center, the Rand Memorial Hospital, and the Grand Bahama Community Clinics. Our Italia Hall spoke with the Minister of Health this afternoon, who provided an update on the situation. According to reports, services at the Rand Memorial Hospital were slow for the past few days as junior doctors within the public healthcare system continue to strike. Minister of Health, the Honorable Dr. Dwayne Sands says the Ministry of Health, the Public Hospitals Authority, the nation's leader, and the Minister of Labor have all met, and they are willing to bring this unfortunate situation to a close.
We expected this morning, having been invited by the Director of Labor to a meeting to meet and discuss the outstanding issues, and the union opted not to participate in that meeting after all. And so, unfortunately, the Bahamian public continue to be held, continue to be inconvenienced.
Reports say the doctors have had a number of issues dating back to 2010, but the main issue is the issuance of holiday pay. The Bahamas Doctors Union claimed that the Public Hospitals Authority refuses to pay the junior doctors for working on holidays.
I think the Bahamian public needs to understand that this is a new provision provided for in the latest industrial agreement. Had never been provided for, and it is a benefit negotiated above and beyond what was required by the law. That said, the Public Hospital Authority has acknowledged that the term exists in the industrial agreement, and have basically been negotiating with the union to establish how do you determine who is entitled to what, how do you determine who worked holidays, etc.
He adds that while the ministry appreciates the fact that the nurses and consultant physicians remain on the job, it is a sad situation.
It is not a normal situation. The typical staffing of hospitals primarily intended to maintain a level of safety for the patients. And when you deviate from that, while you can still provide safe care, you do not have the level of appropriate redundancy to check and double check.
He says the consultant physicians are in place to assist with any emergency.
They are ultimately the final arbiter of all the care that's provided in the hospital. And so, you know, pretty much any emergency service can be provided. The highest level of expertise remains in the hospital.
The health minister says the ministry and the PHA are prepared to sit down at any time to bring this matter to an amicable conclusion. It's Halia Hall, ZNS Network News. The Minister of Financial Services, Trade, Industry and Immigration, the Honorable Ellsworth Johnson, during a recent visit to Grand Bahama, addressed a number of issues within the Immigration Department, including some of the upgrades being made. He says that the ministry is now focusing on the full digitalization of the department.
It would remove any impediment from the system for good service. To say to members of the public that there are only two fees that you pay to immigration: your application fee, and if you're successful with that application, the final fee. There are no intermediary fees to prevent that. And so the full digitization that we're focusing on heavily of the Immigration Department would allow persons not to leave Cat Island or Rumkey, but you can make applications online, and then there can be response, and they're already given responses online.
Minister Johnson says that they are also working on the backlog of the naturalization process.
Because we have a lot of persons who every indicator says that they're Bahamians, And so we have to naturalize those persons. But while doing that, we are telling them of their responsibility to the Bahamas, to be loyal, to be patriotic, and the commitment that they ought to have if they want to be Bahamians. And if they don't demonstrate that, there's very little that we can do.
And on to sad news, final respects paid to veteran employee of the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas, Colin Trotman, in the nation's capital this morning. Trotman was the Assistant General Manager for Production and Parliamentary Channel and was also credited for establishing ZNS TV here in the North. Tonight, those who were also a part of the implementation of the Northern Service Television Department are remembering him as a legend.
Colin Trotman, to me, epitomized a consummate professional. This is a man who gave his life. His whole being was ZNS. I've never, ever met an individual like Colin Trotman. He lived, he breathed, he slept not many hours, because most of his time is devoted to the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Back in the 90s, Colin Trotman was one of the team members sent to the Northern Service to assist with establishing ZNS TV in the North. Joan Davis Roll and Christine Pinder were among the first reporters on ZNS television here in Grand Bahama, and they say his contribution to their work ethics as young reporters could never be forgotten.
It was 20 years ago that Colin Trotman came to Grand Bahama, and it was 20 years ago that TV came to Grand Bahama. We are considered, I believe, pioneers of television here in the Northern Bahamas. We didn't have a clue on what it is to expect, what we were going to do, but here was a man, along with Mr. Alvin Moss, who traveled from the province to Grand Bahama to set up television. Now, television was designed to give us a broader reach, and the fundamentals of television were crucial. And these two gentlemen had the fundamentals.
It made you a stronger employee to know all sides of the work. So, you just took a holistic approach and you got involved because not only did you have to do your work as a professional, but also you had to assist the cameraman with the workload in terms of toting the camera, equipment and everything. So when you saw the final product, you were very, very proud.
When Trotman's work was done in Grand Bahama, the baton was passed to Denzel Swain, who was then named television production manager. He says the policies and procedures that help to govern the Northern Service today came from what he learned from Colin Trotman.
I was heartbroken, very heartbroken, under the condition that he just saw this here and was heartbroken. I mean, he didn't have to die like that. To me, he was supposed to be bringing everybody back together when he's retiring. He wasn't supposed to bring the whole corporation and half of the nation together in death.
They say he will truly be missed.
Colin should be remembered as someone who loved his work, who loved people, and a consummate professional, and someone who also chased God.
Wanting us to be better than we were, and he would settle for nothing less than the best, and that's how I will remember him.
Coming up, a young man receiving a big donation to pursue an educational program. This story and more when we return.